I've been here since 1975, and I've been involved in the community in a variety of ways, ranging from tutoring programs in East Palo Alto to environmental activities to neighborhood associations and South of Forest area plans 1 and 2. Planning Commission last 8 years, twice chair. What's prompted me to run actually for council is that as much as I love being on the Planning and Transportation Commission, and I do love planning, is somewhat of a frustration that I've been there 8 years and it is advisory, and there are things that I really personally think we should be doing for the public and in the public's best interest that aren't currently happening. And I'd like to move from an advisory role to having a voice, a stronger voice in outcomes. Whether it's housing issues that, crowd schools, those kinds of issues are in front of the city, and those provide both opportunities and challenges. And with my background on the Planning Commission, I think I'm prepared to face those. We have financial complications, as most communities do, whether it's declining retail sales, monies that the state's taking away, or union contracts, or just running a city that is efficiently run. Those situations still exist. Losing retail, attracting retail, those are things I'm interested in and committed to working for. And then, I mentioned that sometimes there's an extra quotient that's put in there. Mine is honoring the public trust, because I think there are a number of things that we can do to better include the public and build better community, which I think will lead to faster outcomes and decisions and be able to move forward without such consternation as we have in the community now. Provide a better means and a better playing field for inclusivity. For instance, council packets are released on Thursday evening or Fridays for Monday council meetings. That we shouldn't be considering last-minute proposals. Proposals come to the council members after council packets are released. That doesn't lead to much inclusivity. Doesn't give public, ARB, Planning Commission, staff, nobody's had an opportunity to comment, review, or give advice and recommendation on those, and they're put before the council. That should actually automatically, from my perspective, mean that that project is then continued. Again, it's about leveling the playing field and providing good information to everyone. Everyone should have access to the same information at the same time.
As you look back at your tenure on the Planning Commission, what would you say the high points and the low points were in terms of the Commission's action?
One of the things that I think we did very well was we had come before us the rezoning recommendation from staff for the Palo Alto Bowl site. And the city staff was recommending to zone the whole property CS, which would allow for a hotel. The neighbors had come with their concerns, and so they were opposed to that. They were concerned about there being a hotel right at their back doors, because they back up single-family, single-story, two-story homes back up to that property. So what we did, and I was chair at the time, and I am very proud of this, I think one of the high points of the commission, is we allowed everybody to speak 5 minutes. We asked questions of the public as well as the staff, and what we ended up doing was zoning the front part of the property CS to allow for a hotel, and the back part of the property abutting the neighborhood, we zoned it RM15, or 15 units to the acre. That gave the neighbors a good buffer. It's good planning anyway. The staff was satisfied, the neighbors were happy, and they told us they felt heard. And when it went to the council, it passed very quickly, easily, with no opposition. There are 3 planning commissioners, including myself, who've been working on revising the Planned Community Zone ordinance. And we worked on it for several months. There's so much broken about it. Like, for instance, there's no indication or direction or guidance about what public benefits should be. I'll just hit maybe 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, well.
There's no indication, there's no identified parameters for a public benefit, for instance. There is really no consequence to not providing the public benefit. There's supposed to be inspections every 3 years that don't happen. And part of the reason they don't happen is because I think most people don't know they're supposed to happen, but also because it's at the city's expense. So that needs to shift too, so that the inspection happens at the owner's expense. Otherwise, it's an onus on the city. I think what should happen with planned community zone projects is that the applicant can make their case for what they want to do, but then I think the city ought to weigh in instead of just letting the applicant own the whole project. So I think, again, if the city would provide direction and comment early, we would have much earlier conclusion.
What's your view of the kind of the big picture regarding city finances?
Well, there are many things that enter into the picture here. One is with our retail environment and our commercial environment, we've had for a very long time a convoluted permitting system. We lose businesses because they can't survive our multifaceted permitting process, where you have to go to utilities, public works, planning, building, and what we need to change, and I think Jim Keene has actually maybe started working on, is having a central location and a central core process for that. We've lost, 3 weeks ago someone told me that he's a Palo Alto resident and said he wanted to open just a little brewery here, 2,500 square feet, couldn't survive that process, and went to Belmont and got permits in 2 days.
Are you in support of a two-tier system where new employees come in with different benefits than current employees?
I am.
You are?
I am, yes. The situation is one that has been persistent for, I can't tell you what year it started, when we started backloading the benefits, such that now we have hundreds of millions of dollars literally in liabilities. The current city council is working towards making some inroads there. It's not going to turn around overnight, and I would hope that, and I think this is happening, that while we're having these discussions with union employees, that we not confuse the value of employees with the necessity to right the ship in terms of the economic perspectives here that just have to come into reality.
Do you think we need to shrink the size of the number of city employees?
Again, I would look to some specific audits for that, and again, I would specifically look at Public Works because it's, again, the biggest department. And I'm not prepared to say that we need to lose 20 employees out of City Hall or 50 employees or 1 employee, but I think we ought to be doing some due diligence to be able to demonstrate that we're living within our means and that we're spending very responsibly the public's money. Some of our community services, I think, could be, I think we should be evaluated in terms of public-private partnerships. And reducing staff isn't necessarily the best way to go. Again, if it's just reducing staff and then not creating a system that incorporates that workload.
Your views on Measure A?
I'm actually not supporting Measure A, and it's a difficult choice. It's a very difficult choice. But the reasons I'm not supporting it are some of which I've alluded to already. We aren't doing much to support the business community in our current framework. And I understand that the City Council didn't want to earmark any of the funds from Measure A, the business license tax, back to businesses, because then it would have required a 66% rather than a simple majority to pass. And I do understand that. At the same time, there's no commitment to putting any of that money back into improving either the process or the physical conditions in the business community. Well, I hear from most everyone that people are very proud of Palo Alto, that they love this community. What I hear from an awful lot of people is that they don't feel heard, that they don't feel like their letters, that their comments are very well considered. I think another thing that I'm getting very good response on is that the council should be having town hall meetings all over town, where people don't have just a minute or 2 or maybe 3 to comment to the council about what their concerns are, and then the council, because they're not agendized items, the council can't respond. I really think it ought to be let's take it on the road. Council members having these town hall meetings where people can have not the time constraint, and council members can respond.